Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our lunchtime global talk series, where we ask you pause over lunch and enjoy a conversation with colleagues. I will be your host for today's event. My name is Mina Hasman. I'm a practicing architect and the sustainability lead at Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. We're in an interdisciplinary global architecture, planning and engineering practice. I'm also part of the RIBA's Expert Advisory Group for Sustainable Futures and sit at the UK Green Building Council's Board of Trustees, as well as being the focal point for the Commonwealth Association of Architects for Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction. Before we start today's session, we would like to inform you on a few housekeeping tips to make sure that you have the best possible experience throughout today's event. And please note that all of you will be muted when joining the event. And if you would like to ask a question, please feel free to use the Q&A section. If we don't get a chance to answer all of your questions today, please be assured that we will do so after today's event. And therefore, it's important for you to kindly inform us who you are and which company you work for, so that we can effectively get in touch with you after today's event to help clarify any questions you may have. And also please note that today's event is being recorded and it is going to be published at the RIBA's YouTube channel. I would like to briefly start framing today's event around the crucial role of design, and especially the integrated and innovative design as it relates in the built environment sector, and the role it plays in help shaping a globally sustainable future for us all. And also why this is perhaps much more important to emphasize now than ever before. As most of you will be aware, in this year, 2020, we have entered a new decade, what the United Nations calls the Decade of Action to deliver on the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, as they have been identified to be 17 by the United Nations. And as we have entered into this new decade with many challenges we have been facing in relation to climate change, natural disasters, rapid urbanization, social stability, and now also with the added layer of a global pandemic, the role of design and designers have been gaining a greater focus. And as architects, among many other designers that build buildings and cities that we will continue to inhabit, have been re-evaluating their priorities and grappling with the challenge of diversifying their designs in the application and approach to deliver truly holistic and sustainable built environments for us and the generations to come. And today we will hear from two esteemed guests who are very kind here to be joining us at this hour to share their experiences in delivering innovative designs for holistically and globally sustainable future. And it is now my pleasure to welcome our speakers for today's event, Mr. Mouaz Abouzaid and Mr. Nuru Karim. We're glad you were able to make the time to join us today and are very much looking forward to your presentations. And if I may briefly first start introducing Mouaz. Mouaz Abouzaid is a Cairo-born architect and the founder as well as the design principal of Verform Studio. He has over 15 years of experience reaching across multiple market sectors. His particular focus is on leveraging the built environment to create links between urban and humanitarian societies that are very much ingrained in heritage, social and political understandings as well as context. And in recognition of his work, Mouaz was voted the Middle East Young Architect of the Year in 2016, and also was nominated for the Architect of the Year 2 years ago. Mouaz, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mina. Thanks for RIBA for the invitation. I'm glad to be here today. I'm going to share my screen and start the presentation with you. Can you see my screen? Okay. So we are Verform Design Studio. We are based in Dubai, and very soon we will be opening in Spain and in Egypt as well. We focus in urban, social, design, and technology. 4 words that forms the core of our dedication and philosophy. Architecture for us represents an opportunity to explore and rationalize in order to find true meaning and purpose. We are interested in people and how they exist and function within the context of today's global culture. Architecture could be a formula to explain the context through which the personal and environment interact. It's all about the quality of life through architecture. We try our best to create buildings and spaces that bring people together and building hope for people through the creation of places and identity. Our first project that we'll discuss today is RIBA, the Informal City. It is the Egyptian National Pavilion in the Venice Biennale in 2018. It was the main theme of this year was free space. RIBA in the Architecture Venice Biennale journey, we found that RIBA is one of the most interesting ideas to represent the Egyptian pavilion that reflect the curator's manifesto, which is free space of opportunity, free space of thinking, free space of imagination. We took part from the Egyptian informal markets, which is the installation, and we placed it in the center of our pavilion. It's more like we draw a lens from Venice back to Egypt to highlight the informal markets. Our focus was in the informality. We believe that we should explore it more and more and also learn from it. The informal economy, it is growing more quickly than any other economic system. It is unwritten but fully understood because it is based on immediate needs. Our response to the theme, actually, we thought about a direct political statement approach, but then we were a bit afraid that we might not win the competition in Egypt because maybe the government will not like it. So we decided to go for a furtive statement, and we choose the informal markets to focus on it. The role of free space within the dense morphological and social fabric of the city. Actually, we focused in urban areas, allowing a free use that contributes to a better living of contemporary metropolises. Anatomy of informality was how we focus on the pavilion from the object to the city. This is how we explain the pavilion. And then the methodology was, we started to think about an object or information, or we put both together, but we decided totally to free the space and hang everything from the ceiling and then put all the information on the walls to make it more interconnected with the guests. And I think it was very successful to choose to hang everything up, because actually Venice during this year, it's totally floated with water. It was a huge challenge in coordination, budget and time between Dubai. We are based in Dubai, the curators here, and Egypt, the Egyptian government coordination with them, plus the Rome also, Egyptian Academy in Rome, plus the pavilion in Venice. So it's a clear definition between old and new of the space reading. This is a section showing during the design stage of the pavilion. As you can see, we placed the cart of the rubabikia. Rubabikia means the used stuff. This is it's a kind of sustainable way of living in Egypt, that when you have an old stuff, you're reselling it, and someone is coming to your home, taking it back, and then reselling it back to the market. So it keeps going. It's some people need all this old stuff. So we bought part of it and we hang it on the wall, around 400 pieces. As you can see here, this is the pavilion. This is the book for the rubabikia. I think the link will be shared with you. You can go through it and read more about it. And we ended the pavilion with a interesting visit from Sir David to the pavilion. The Guardian chose it as one of the most 7 interesting pavilions. Los Angeles Times also talked about it, and we were shortlisted in the World Architecture Festival in 2018. After we finished the Biennale, I asked myself, what's after Biennale? Because all of this, I was doing it parallel to my work. I didn't open my studio yet, and I was doing it after working hours. We meet with my friend Islam and Cristiano, the 3 curators. We meet in weekends. It was a long year, and then after we came back, I was interested in the informal market again, and I wanted to do something actually in that space. It's called Friday Market, or Souk al Juma, how we call it in Egypt. There is the space there, we call it City of the Dead, and there is a book, Architecture for the Dead, for Dr. Galil Al-Adi. This book will explain more about the architecture of the dead city and how people are living there, and also looking into other challenges like the population growth in Egypt that currently approximately 100 million, and then it's going to be 150 million in 2050. Also looking worldwide, about approximately 1.6 billion people around the world will have lack access to affordable and secured housing. So we wanted to do something to solve part of these issues. Shiltainer, where humanity meets hope. The only thing constant for us in this world is the change, so we decided to change. We had a choice between moving and improving. We decided to improve, which is the most hard part. We could go out of the city and build something. Why we choose that market and why you choose the informal markets? Because 73% of the new employment comes from the informal markets. In Cairo, only in Cairo, there is approximately 134 informal markets. So I believe that we need to solve it. We need to find solution for it. Those our clients, those our people that we literally the bodies of the living and the dead are side by side in this area. People live in symmetry. They live in areas where they have lack of everything there. That's an image showing also the entire. It's a giant neighborhood built over the graveyard. As you can see here, this is a quick diagram showing how it's growing by year and how people are moving in between and how the market itself is growing through the graveyard. So my question was, okay, in 2030, are we going to go more and take more from this space? We started to talk to people to gather information and rethinking the city of the dead through public participation. We start to predict the future of the city of the dead by the pillars of sustainability, and then we start to put the needs, and we started to design the project looking from micro and macro scale. We looked at the project. Here it's showing the upper front, the upper floor unit and the ground floor unit. It's around 8 units gathering together to create this cluster. As you can see, we created a several typology out from the cluster, and we are trying somehow to be inspired from the skyline of Cairo to blend the new design with the skyline of the existing city. As you can see here, Musalah also is as part of this design on the containers here. So we used mainly containers to transform the traditional souk into a more interesting. The reason also we used the containers because the original one was designed, the people designed it by wood and corrugated sheets. So somehow we're going with the same feeling. Like this is, as you can see here, it's an urban space for the market. So it's a very simple design, but in the same time, it will help people to organize their life. So that was the second journey today. We will go to X Space. We'll travel to Dubai now to talk about Dubai Urban Greenway. It's teaching and creating urban fabrics that reflects all aspects of life. The previous one was a pavilion that converted to a project. Here it's opposite. Here we finished the project, and now we are doing a pavilion to discuss the issue of or the global phenomenon of the highway that intersecting the city and splitting it in two small cities. So it's more about architecture dialogue. The starting point started from the desert, where sometimes we are going here a lot to the desert. So I was flying the drone to check what's happening, and then I found that there is a reaction of nature, and the sand movement actually it's covering the roads. So it was a kind of message for me to do something. Looking into the Dubai growth from the desert to metropolis as well, and how Dubai, this is Sheikh Zayed Road in 1960. So as you can see, it's a simple, normal road. It's not designed to be a highway, but now as you can see, it's totally I can see it, I call this image like spaghetti. So the city has become the most congested city in the Middle East. Every two own one car. So I don't know what will happen in the future. In 2035, approximately will be around 3.5 million. So the number of cars will increase. We started to think about a way to change this. Looking into also the population, and there is 20% also only local people and 80% non-national. So again, a question, why do we need smart cities? I think the answer is quite simple and clear in this image. As you can see, the population worldwide will raise to 9.7 billion. So I think we need to start to think about solutions. Technology, in my opinion, was a big part of the problem in the previous century when we invented the cars and we created all our landscape around it. So I think now it's time to take action and change this. I saw this happened in Boston in one of the projects. Emirates, called the Big Dig. Also, you can look into other cities like Barcelona and the Super Block, and the challenges also that we face here in Dubai. So the totally was the road was totally transformed into a bridge to bring a lifeline to the city in Dubai Water Canal. So we said we will take another challenge and try to bring it back to people. As you can see here, the Sheikh Zayed Road, it's the red line that connecting the entire Emirates together. And we wanted to create a transitional space that becomes the city-owned urban living room. As you can see here in this diagram, we are highlighting 5 locations as a prototype for this project. We choose the X1 as the first prototype, and as you can see, Dubai's urban growth is going in a linear direction. So we're trying somehow to find where is the most critical spaces that we would like to link the city and stitch the city in this area. That's the focus for us.
Well, sorry for interrupting. If you wouldn't mind slowing the pace of your presentation so that our speakers can, because you're presenting very interesting concepts, and I worry that it may just be going too fast for people to capture the main essence that you may want to deliver. Thank you. Sure.
I'm just trying to fit everything within the 15 minutes, but I will slow down a little bit. Okay, so as you can see here in this diagram, we have the X points. So X1, it is the first part, which is the beside Emirates Towers. And this is the booming of Sheikh Zayed Road. It is the start of the skyscrapers happened in this area here. There is the Museum of the Future, there is Emirates Towers. So we found this is a very, very critical space that we would like really to do something here in this area. After we designed the project, there was Dubai Marathon, and when we asked people after this marathon, like, what's your feeling and what did you feel when you start to run in this road? They said it was amazing to replace the car and feel that we are running in this street. So we said that this is a message that we are moving in the right direction. We believe that if you plan cities for cars and traffic, you will get cars and traffic. So it's better to plan it for people and places, to get people and places. In Dubai, there is 2 sides of the coins. If you look at all Dubai, you will find the human scale urbanism. It's possible and it's available. And when you look at the left side here, you'll find the skyscrapers and the metropolis. And we wanted somehow to merge these 2 images and bring back all the previous values again back to the new modern city. Reaction of nature, bringing back a lot of values to the daily social life as a manifestation of human scale urbanism, and that image for me was it's driven the full concept from the early beginning of the project, looking into the vernacular architecture, looking into the restoration of nature, simplicity, reaction of nature. So all of this, it's kind of an inspiration to do something for this project. Also, there was a lot of keywords before we start sketches like connectivity, walkability, drones, technology, sky gardens, blockchain, sand movement, cycling tracks. So there was a lot of key points that we would like really to add to the project. And in one flight, I was traveling to Manila, approximately 8 hours from Dubai. I took my sketch out after a long research, and I started to do some quick sketches that start to transform into a better spaces. So framing the past and the future was one of the main aim of the project. The frame, you can see all Dubai, and in the same time you see the new Dubai. So it's like a linking point between the past and the future. Access also to the sky garden. So instead of just losing the best views out from Sheikh Zayed Road by a few seconds, you can now sit on the roof. You can enjoy, you can have a nice time there, have a lunch, have a dinner. The court view also, courtyard view, we named that courtyard as a courtyard of tolerance. And this will replace the car, so you can sit, you can enjoy in that area. That diagram is explaining how the people are using almost 40 minutes to cross the road because they have to go through the metro stations. Through our new design, we give 75% for people and 25% for cars. People was able to move from in the 2 sides in less than a minute, so that's helping a lot. The usual or the typical response for people when they build in this area, they go for skyscrapers. We took the other direction. We went into a landscaper, we lifted up, we created a sky garden, we prepared a plaza, courtyard, a parking, bicycle track, a road. So it's going layers above each others, but the ground level itself, it's going for people, so people can move easily between buildings without any obstacle or any barriers. it's like transforming the city infrastructure into something that can help people. In the same time, there is a building that can serve that. In the ground floor you have food and beverage, in the roof also you have a food and beverage, but in between you can work, you can live, you can enjoy. So this is where, and again, we went into the form evolution, discovering the optimum form and dynamic adaptability. Walkability, as I said, it's one of the main issues. So this is something we wanted to, and I think I have to speed up the next slides because my time is over. But I would say technology can be part of the solution if it bends to the need of the world. As you can see the sections here and the layers. So the lower one, it's for cars, above one, it's for people and cycling tracks, and then people, and then the office. And then this is the layout, and this is finally the images for the project. It's transitional space that becomes the city-owned urban living room. And I will just go quickly through those images. Future of our cities is about people. The roof will become an accessible stage and meeting place. And finally, we reached to the end of the presentation, and we won the World Architecture Festival last year. We won the Smart Cities Award and overall award. Although the jury, I will end the presentation with the comment from the jury, from Paul Finch. He said that Dubai gets a lot of criticism. Some of them are very understandable, but that proposal was a really fantastic, constructive proposition about how you can introduce smart city and environmental strategies into a heavily urbanized contemporary city. Thank you so much, and the future of our cities is about people.
Thank you, Mouaz. Thank you for that very inspirational and engaging presentation. You've covered a lot of ground, and your work really tries to capture the complexities of the global challenges we face. And very much, I think, in the various examples that you presented, contextualize these sort of global challenges in the varied regions and cities that you've worked, and also at different scales. I think it was really interesting to see the scale and the breadth of the work that you've presented. So thank you for that. I will now like to welcome our other speaker, Mr. Nuru Karim, again to join our conversation. Thank you so much. We're very glad that you were able to join us today. And if I may briefly introduce you, Nuru is the founder as well as the principal at Nudes, and he defines himself as a designer operating within the disciplines of art, architecture, and computational design. And for his work, Nuru has achieved international recognition and has been nominated for a series of awards, including the Aga Khan Award of Architecture. And he's also recently won the World Architecture Community Award in the design category. Nuru, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today again. Please, over to you. Thank you.
You share your slides.
So thank you, Mina. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you well. Thank you.
If you put it in presentation mode, you're live now.
All right, so good evening, everyone, and a big thank you to RIBA for hosting this event. To introduce ourselves, we are a practice based out of Mumbai, India. And Nudes operates within the realm of the cross-disciplinary cultures of public art, architecture, and computational design. But they are these sort of larger networks where we look at impact with respect to social, cultural, and environmental concerns. So I basically completed my master's at the Architectural Association in London, and I moved to Mumbai, Bombay in 2006. Today I'm going to be talking about a few projects in India, Middle East, and East Africa. And these have been sort of cherry-picked, especially for this RIBA Global Talk, to present a few ideas and concepts that have been an output of some of the research in our studio. So some of the projects that I'll be talking about will be centered around climate change, social impact, particularly in the realm of education, and education as empowerment and infrastructure. The first project is the Bookworm Pavilion, and this was this sort of pop-up pavilion that was sited at the CS MVS Museum in Mumbai. It was formerly the Prince of Wales Museum, The central idea of this project was to foster this sense of love for reading amongst children, education as empowerment being a key driver. So we've seen some of these diagrams and the deployment diagrams. We had a very simple A-frame ladder, which is deployed along the length of the site. And just by changing the angle of the ladder, you could actually create spaces for reading or archiving. There are some very interesting sort of interstitial spaces that are created along this sort of meandering pathway, but allows the visitors to explore this landscape of books, both within the interior and the exterior. So located within the gardens of the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Vastu Sangrahalaya Museum in Mumbai, the Bookworm has been built as a response to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal that all youths and a substantial proportion of adults achieve literacy by 2030. So just to give you an idea of the size, it's about 5,000, 5.5, 6,000 square feet. It's about 120 feet wide, long by 48 feet wide. The entire system is actually fabricated from this recycled plywood, and we actually use a lot of digital cutting tools to avoid wastage and optimize the fabrication process. So this entire pavilion is a kit of parts, which is composed of approximately 3,500 to 3,600 wooden components that are actually assembled on nuts and bolts. And because of the site constraint, we couldn't even put a nail on the site. So it's a very light-footed, sustainable pavilion that sits on these majestic lawns. The capacity of the pavilion can house approximately 12,000 books, and a lot of these books were actually donated by several charities and individuals. The aim was to actually create a bookscape of sorts which invites children to explore and learn simultaneously. So we really wanted to make reading to be a fun activity, encourage children to come out there, experience the Bookworm Pavilion, pick books and read books, irrespective of language. The larger goal is that the bookworm can actually spread across the urban and rural landscape of India, and hopefully spread that love for reading and sharing knowledge. The next project is Noor, the Mosque of Light, and this was a design proposal for a mosque in Dubai. So if you see in Islamic architecture, light plays a very crucial role. And in this project, we wanted to explore the relationship between light and form to create this sort of holistic spiritual experience. This also resulted in investigating Islamic geometries. So you see a lot of these sort of Islamic geometries based on mathematical principles, which were crafted on modular double curvature structural systems. Here you can see the section, and the section demonstrates a very layered system, a very heavy layered, top-heavy mashrabia roof that combats and mitigates incident solar radiation and improves energy performance of the building. The mosque is actually designed to hold regular daily prayers on Friday and also Eid prayers for a population of about 7,500 people. So in addition to this dramatic display of light being filtered down, the architectural system also protects the inhabitants from the intense sunlight and provides a very cooling environment. You can see the light that actually bounces off these double curved surfaces, and they filter through these mashrabia sort of apertures, which are based on Islamic geometrical principles. These are not diagrams, these are actual cross-sectional layers through the entire project. And you can actually see and experience the very rich architectural tapestry and pattern geometry, which adorns the mosque and filters and renders this mosque in quite incredible light and shadow patterns. A geometric module consists of multi-layered minimal precast surfaces. So we are anticipating that this project would be built out of precast modular concrete construction methodologies, which actually render the mosque in very interesting light patterns, both during the day and night time. The next project is a very interesting project. It's a smaller kind of project. It's called the Nest. This was for a competition proposal for an observatory in Abu Dhabi. And of course, we were shortlisted, but we didn't win that competition. But it was nevertheless a very exciting experience. For us to engage with the site became a very fundamental priority, taking clues from the site, understanding the existing nature, the flora, the fauna. And if you actually see, the observatory consists of the following components. So there's this event space, there's a helical ramp, there's also this exhibition gallery, and right at the top there's this observatory deck. So the design of the nest basically attempts to decode construction behavior of birds and other related species by proposing a construction system which is inspired by nature, driven by bottom-up design processes. The architectural program is shielded by these nested twig-like components, which are modular, mass-produced, and very easy to assemble. The nest humbly explores the design of the flamingo bird observatory that is both culturally and contextually relevant. If you look at the interior spaces, these interior spaces could also be used for additional events, and the ramp doubles up also as an exhibition space. So that's the way the nest actually sits on the site. This is a project in Pune in India. Pune is a city which is about 3 hours by road from Mumbai. And we recently won this competition for a school building. So I wanted to share a few postcards from India. If you look at the image on the top left, it's from Delhi, the pre-pandemic and post-pandemic scenarios. You can see the difference in the air quality. Air pollution is a big concern. There's also this big lack of pedestrian pathways. Sometimes you have situations where people are walking on the streets and the safe pedestrian pathways are actually encroached by hawkers or by debris, or very often by even vehicles during peak traffic hours. So the forest was born out of conversations with the stakeholders about their views on pedagogy and its city infrastructure. And some of the things that actually popped up were issues like air pollution, climate change, sustainable design, safe walkways for senior citizens, universal accessibility, and safety for children became a big concern. The design explores the relationship between nature and pedagogy and is based on the main principles of grow, learn, reuse, plant, and play. So we wanted to stitch this whole life scheme back into the pedagogical program of the project. If you see the building, it's actually designed as these 2 live rotundas, which are these cylindrical volumes, and they're connected by a rooftop infinity cycle track. The loop is imagined as a bicycle track, which is a bicycle track for a city which is starved of pedestrian walkways and cycling tracks. But in addition, this loop can also be used for a lot of non-programmatic activities, such as workshops, student exhibitions, student-led markets, recreation. We're trying to create a school which could work perhaps on a 24/7 community-based participatory method. This is a project which was for a proposal for a school in East Africa. It's called the Bale School. And the design focuses on utilizing local materials. The idea was also to embrace this sort of vernacular architecture and create a building that potentially could fit within the East African context, driven by bottom-up design processes and encouraged by community participation. So it actually explores a variety of classroom environments, and the program is sort of very rich. It has administrative spaces, computer rooms, libraries. It also has spaces for resident staff housing, for animals, multi-purpose areas, and residential components for students as well. The classrooms are well ventilated, and you can see the higher volume in the center, which is actually washed by these skylights. There are also these sort of very simple materials that are used to screen off partitions or classrooms when required. The straw bales are actually used to create this very sort of breathable skin for this proposed school project. The library space, which has a lot of natural light filtering in through. And we're actually looking to create environments, like classroom environments out of the box where children can actually sit on. A lot of learning can actually happen outside the classroom. So that was one of the larger sort of thematic areas that we were looking at in terms of education and pedagogy. The last project is the Kochi Biennale Pavilion. As you know, the Kochi Biennale Pavilion is one of the biggest art events in India, and it happens once every 2 years. The aim of this pavilion was actually to create a black box which can host lectures, performances, even have recordings of lectures and performance based on, TEDx formats or so on and so forth, but also cultural performances. The whole idea was actually to use, the local city language vernacular, the architectural vernacular, but also get this whole idea of earth and the idea of the handmade. This we started designing this during the pandemic, so we were clearly influenced by how nature could be an engine for recovery, and that's one of the key components that drove the philosophy of the pavilion. As you can see, there's a very simple sort of typology, and the courtyard of the pavilion is actually lassoed around a few of the trees which exist on site. The black box can be actually connected to the open to sky amphitheater through a system of movable screens. And you have a lot of handmade terracotta pots which are arrayed along the project to create a very dynamic assembly system. The pavilion made of terracotta, the handmade pavilion, and this sort of live skin grows and sits within its context and aims to be a space for conversations and dialogues. It also sorts of creates this very cooling environment. It gets really hot and sticky sometimes in summer, particularly in the months of March and April. And there are almost 4,000 handmade pots that we're looking to deploy to create this pavilion. So that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nuru, for that very inspirational presentation and set of projects. Your work really brings the focus to built environment at a component level almost, and highlights how at scale these components can really provide positive impacts and add great value to their local context. I think if I may just start with the question that I had in mind, and we can take more questions from the audience afterwards. I think the two key messages I have taken from your respective presentations are, as emphasized in Mouaz's presentation, the future of cities is about people. And then also as emphasized in Nuru's presentation just now, that cross-disciplinary collaboration is essential for delivering innovative designs. And both of these key messages really emphasize the need of involving multiple perspectives in the evolution of design today and also in the future. And these multiple perspectives, as they come not only from the design community or the built environment professionals, namely our peers in the industry, but also from the people that are those that actually very much sit outside, and such as the public, and with people who actually directly interact with the environments we create as architects on a day-to-day basis. And I think many of the presentations, many of the projects that we presented really depict the essence of this hypothesis that people really are at the heart of our built environments and also of our future, both today and the growingly complex future. So I'm wondering, maybe throughout the evolution of these projects that you've presented, were you engaged in the consultation with the local community to help shape your designs and the decisions that you've made throughout your project's evolution? I'm happy to either Mouaz or Nuru to respond to this, but I'm wondering the people side of the equation, whether how much of that has influenced your design decisions and helped shape finding the final solution in the projects that you presented today?
From my side, if I go back to the projects like Sheltainer or even Rubabikia, I think people was part of the design process because during the pavilion research, it took almost 1 year from us to complete the pavilion. We met people several times. We was walking in the middle of the markets. We was talking and asking questions and trying to know exactly what they want. And then when we decided to start with Sheltainer, we put all of this in consideration. We put them as the first priority. I hope that whatever we designed could be built one day. We are still trying to contact the authorities in Egypt to see if they will accept it or not. But yes, the answer is in Sheltainer, it was part of the people was part of the design process. In the X Space project also, in every step we are asking, we are doing some researches, we check with people, even in the marathon. While we are running in the marathon, we start to talk to people, how do you feel, what do you want in this area? And we started to feel that this is what they want. Whatever we reach it now, it's not only us, it's a collection of what everyone needs in this area. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, that was very clear. Thank you, Mouaz. And I'm also just seeing another question that was exactly the same question I've raised that came from the audience. So we're very thankful for you to answering that. And Nuru, there's a specific question from the audience to you, if I may direct, please. It's in regards to the Bookworm Pavilion that you presented, which is a beautiful project. Acknowledging the monsoon season that exists in the city, I'm wondering, and the audience is actually wondering whether how the Bookworm Pavilion transforms during the monsoon season, and how can that still be occupied and interacted and engaged with the public during that harsher climate of the year.
So thank you for that question. I think we're very clear in terms of positioning where the Bookworm Pavilion is concerned, that it's a fair weather pavilion. So it rains very heavy in Bombay and certain parts of India, and we don't really see the bookworm being pitched up during the monsoons. So that's about 25-30% of the year where it actually gets parked. But it kind of works well because we're not seeing it as a specific project anchored in one place all the time. It's important that we unpack it and then we deploy it back into perhaps a rural area, a peri-urban area, or maybe a government school, or perhaps even in the slums. So there will be these sort of pause moments, but we need to time it very carefully and then sort of deploy it based on the requirement. But yes, it's not an all-weather pavilion.
Thank you, Nuru, for that answer. And if I may, this is actually going to lead to my next question, which both of your presentations have provoked in me, I think, a question of adaptability. You've both emphasized the need to reference back to vernacular architecture and how sort of in vernacular architecture in its essence is known to be adaptable and resilient to changing needs. And this is not just necessarily climatic changing needs, but changing needs as the societies grow, as the population increases, as the demands and the needs of that environment, whatever built environment shape and form we're creating today as architects, would need to possibly adapt to a different use or a different function in the future. So there's that side of adaptability as well. And I'm wondering if in any of these projects where there's adaptability and resilience to changing needs and to changing complexities of our world has been a core driver in the design decisions that you've taken, and whether any of that is implicitly or explicitly incorporated into the actual perhaps construction of the built environment that you've designed.
Yeah, that's for sure. Adaptability and flexibility was one of the core concepts. If I talk about Sheltainer, the container project, we are putting in mind that because if you go back to Egypt and see how the slums are looking now, and everyone is changing the let's say today my needs is I need this space, but I want it actually to be a double after some time. So as part of the design of the units itself, we give almost like 1.5, like almost 30% extra that you can always add to your apartment, to your unit. Also that it can be totally, moved to another space. That was also part of the design. In X Space was a different story because we're looking more into technology in smart cities. How can, and it was for us, it's like we we're putting a seed in the Sheikh Zayed Road that will keep growing by time to stitch the city in this area. I remember that the roof, also part of the roof, we made it as a drone landing because we were looking into the future. You never know, drones is coming soon. So this is something also we looked at it. And the construction also of the pavilion, we wanted to go more for 3D printing and more for the construction techs that can help in the future. So yeah, we are trying to be a little bit flexible and also adaptable in our design. Yeah.
Thank you, Mouaz. And if I may direct the next question to Nuru, just taking a cue from what you just said, Mouaz, is the role of the technology. And Nuru, you've talked a lot about it, I think, in your presentation about sort of this modular construction and the importance of perhaps this digital design and technology in help shaping and informing the future of design. And I think in our industry today and in our design community globally, we very much relate innovation or any kind of innovative design approaches directly to technology, and we leverage technology to be able to exhibit and deliver the innovation in design. And I'm wondering how much of technology or the technological aspects and softwares and so forth really help inform the design decisions that you make, or also the design delivery that you approach in the projects you worked on.
So in our studio, I think technology has a very big role to play, and we've been doing a lot of research on alternate forms of production, including 3D printing and so on and so forth. In fact, one of my recent TEDx talks was about how the construction industry could learn from social insect engineering. And there we actually put forward the case of termite engineering and all of that, you know. But for us, technology doesn't have any sort of meaning unless it makes a social impact, right? So for us, that becomes a very key parameter. It becomes a very key measurement criteria. Technology, for the sake of technology, is something that hinges between something like a gadget and a gizmo towards something which could fade away with time. But if you create something that has social impact, for example, the Bookworm Pavilion, which actually we're looking at, harnessing the power of technology to create that sort of social impact, or even the forest project dealing with air pollution and critical gaps in infrastructure that architecture could address. That becomes interesting. But for us, the marriage between art, public art, and architecture is fundamental. And the way our practice actually pendulum swings between public art and architecture becomes extremely critical. What we get from art is the sense of fearlessness, right? So it doesn't need to respond to those sort of political forces that architecture addresses. And we actually use that and imbibe it into our architectural work culture. What we get from architecture is the people factor, and how it should be more socially responsible, and that gets fed into the art practice. So I think beyond the cliched sort of definition between the blurring between art and architecture, I think technology backing this sort of social impact becomes very, very critical in the way we define our work and our processes.
Thank you, Nuru. It's actually great to hear both of you really emphasizing the people aspect of the overall equation and story when we talk about design and architecture. I'm conscious of time, and I would like to bring this session to close, perhaps by first giving an opportunity to both Mouaz and Nuru to provide any closing remarks if you have, and also later by highlighting, just summarizing the key messages we've heard during today's session. Mouaz, did you want to go first? If you had any closing remarks that you would like to share with us?
Well, I would like to thank everyone for attending. I would like to thank RIBA for this invitation, and we're really glad to be here today. And thank you, Mina. Thanks for all the team. And that's it. And again, I will just end the talk by the cities. The future of our cities is about people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nuri, did you want to share any of the closing remarks that you may have?
No, it's just a great honor to be on this platform. Thank you, RIBA. Thank you, Amanda, Beaton, Mina, Muad. Your work is very inspirational, and hopefully our paths will cross. So it's great. It's just the starting point of conversations, and very, very honored to be part of this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Nuru.
Thank you, Nuru.
So we've heard many interesting perspectives, applications, and insights from the varied work that Muad and Nuru were kind enough to share with us all today. And once more, we have been reminded of the importance of having integrated design approach to deliver innovation for a global sustainable future, as the title of today's session iterates. And this is very much valid no matter the scale of the project, and we've seen varied scales of beautiful projects from both Mouad and Nuru today. I guess another key takeaway that I can draw out from today's session is that architecture and design can really be seen as a catalyst for change, and placing the people at the heart and at the core of any decisions we take. And it's important to see this design being the catalyst for change, something that we really need to acknowledge the power of and leverage its potential for, especially in this era of rapid changes where a multitude of challenges and priorities, as we all have talked about throughout today's event, it really need to be addressed and considered all in tandem. So this brings the session to end, and I would like to thank once more to our speakers, both to Nuru and Mouad, and also you, the audience, for joining us today. I hope you have enjoyed this session, and we will kindly invite all of you to visit the RIBA's website, which is www.architecture.com, for all the upcoming events hosted by the RIBA, and for more information on becoming an RIBA member if you're already not. So thank you so much, and thank you for the RIBA for organizing and for inviting me to be a host, to your host today. Thank you.